Amazing moment, when the maid's daughter surprised a billionaire and stunned 10 top CEOs, Mia stood at the edge of the glittering charity gala, every ornate chandelier casting an intimidating glow over the sea of polished shoes and designer suits. Her hands trembled as she clutched her notes, the elegant ballroom mocking her scruffy appearance and humble background. The tension was palpable, a cocktail of nerves and the taste of unrelenting determination swirling in her gut. She was supposed to belong here, she had fought hard for this moment, but the whispers of privilege echoed in her mind. The laughter and clinking glasses of America's elite rang hollow, sending waves of doubt crashing over her. Her mother worked tirelessly under this roof, cleaning the very floors these attendees walked on, but tonight, it felt like a different world. How had fate led her, the maid's daughter, to stand among billionaires? Over the years, Mia had consumed countless success stories, dissecting strategies late into the night, each word a stepping stone toward the future she craved. Yet now, she felt as out of place as a raindrop in a sunbeam. She glanced around, watching how her peers, clad in extravagant gowns and suits, sneered at her unpolished demeanor. What gives her the right, she'd heard just moments prior, their condescending words like daggers aimed at her insecurities. Each laugh stung a reminder that despite her relentless ambition, her roots made her an outsider. She felt the weight of the many eyes scouting the room, spotting the kid from the suburbs wanting it all but never truly fitting in. Before she could retreat into her own doubts, her ears honed in on a conversation between billionaire CEO John Kavanagh and his associates. They spoke of revenue losses and market strategies, and as Mia listened, her mind raced, formulating the insights she had churned over countless nights in the library. It was now or never. Mustering her courage, she stepped forward, her voice a tremor against the noise of privilege swirling around her. "Aren't you overlooking customer engagement data?" she interjected. The room froze. John's piercing gaze locked on her, surprised yet intrigued. Mia couldn't tell if she was soaring or sinking, one brave observation, and now all attention hovered over her like a spotlight casting shadows of doubt she previously fought so hard to shake off. John's smile seemed genuine. By some miracle, he found her insights worthwhile, sparking an unexpected mentorship that ignited flames of hope within her. As weeks passed, they delved into the intricate dance of corporate strategy, Mia storing each lesson, struggling against the undertow of her identity. But the further she climbed, the more pronounced the truths became, the barriers of class that tethered her spirit and the biases that stained judgment. With John's guidance, she confronted her fears. Yet, shadows loomed larger, whispers of disbelief simmering underneath as board meetings wove tensions tighter around her resolve. Now it was D-Day, a pivotal board meeting looming ahead. The conference room channeling the very essence of her anxiety, 10 CEOs adorned with the gifts of legacy awaited her research presentation. She stood before them, heart racing, muscles tense, staring at the cuffs of blazers polished with privilege. Her voice trembled, insights fought to escape, but time was a lingering enemy. Just as she was about to shatter their preconceived notions of success, a thought struck like lightning. She couldn't just present data. Mia needed to convey her humanity, the daughter of the maid who cleaned the floors of their gilded world. The words hung in the air, every syllable a minefield, the gravity bearing down like lead. Gasping breaths filled the silence, her pulse pounding in her ears. Could she tear through the curtain of pretense and demand they see her for who she was? Mia's mind spiraled with the weight of their perception. Would they finally open their eyes, or would she simply fade back into the shadows? As she held John's gaze, a silent in courage, she lingered on the precipice of revelation, praying fervently that this moment could either carve a niche for people like her or tighten the chains of doubt forevermore. Uncertainty festered as the tension thickened. What would their response unveil? In the stillness, the burden of possibility hung heavy, shadows dancing around the edges of her resolve. Mia inhaled deeply, her gaze scanning the row of steely faces that filled the expansive boardroom. Each pair of eyes felt like a magnifying glass, critiquing not only her data but the essence of who she was. She realized then that this wasn't just about numbers, it was about challenging a century of complacency that had always defined spaces like this. Transforming her abstract concerns into a concrete narrative became imperative. We can't ignore the very fabric of our clientele, she began, her voice cutting through the oppressive silence. Each word positioned her not just as an outsider but as someone uniquely able to bridge the gap between the company and its customers. If we truly wish to turn around these losses, we must understand the lived experiences behind the engagement statistics. To her surprise, John nodded enthusiastically, and that small affirmation ignited a fire within her. But she could feel the skepticism simmering beneath the polished surfaces of her audience. This wasn't just a presentation, it was a confrontation of their biases, an exposure of their unwillingness to see beyond their views shaped by privilege. As the daughter of a maid, I've seen the world that exists outside these walls, she pressed on. The moments of neglect when customer needs were dismissed in favor of metrics. Her voice grew steadier, fueled by a rush of adrenaline. The murmurs of disbelief hovered, but she couldn't allow herself to relent. Did they even comprehend the driving forces affecting their bottom line? Did they grasp what it meant to be invisible in a room of wealth? These were not simply facts she was presenting, they were echoes of her own reality, reflections of the struggles that weren't just hers but shared by many. An awkward silence stretched on, filled with uncertainty. Mia's heart drummed furiously against her rib cage, but she held her ground. She caught a flash of empathy in John's eyes and understanding that, if packaged correctly, could resonate deeply with others in the room. Just then, a man in a slick, crisp suit interrupted her. He was one of the stronger personalities at the table. With all due respect, Mia, he stated, his tone patronizing despite the politeness, some of us built this from nothing. Data is what drives success, not life stories. His words flicked like a flame in dry grass. Rage bubbled within her. To him, she wasn't just a maid's child, she was a threat to the status quo. For a heartbeat, she feared he might extinguish her resolve, but then she found clarity. What if she used this moment to expose the glaring disconnect between numbers and the human element that gave them meaning? You built this on data, yes, Mia shot back, surprising herself with the strength behind her retort. But you know as well as I do that without context, numbers are meaningless. It's the stories of those you serve, the empathy that underpins your strategic planning, that can fuel growth. The room shifted, awareness flickered in a few pairs of eyes. Mia felt the energy in the air change, inciting a readiness to break patterns. Yet, deep down, a gnawing question swirled in her mind: was she ready to confront the sorrows of her past while trying to secure her future? In that vivid moment, she realized that this was not just about impressing corporate giants, it was a chance to dismantle the barriers that had historically kept people like her from achieving true success. But as she spoke, doubts crept in again. Would they truly listen? Would her voice resonate beyond the confines of their privilege? The tension in the room was palpable, and an ominous silence loomed in the shadows of possibility. With their eyes now on her, Mia stood at a crossroads, aware that every syllable could either cement her place or break her spirit. And as she took her next breath, she realized that these final moments could shatter the very limits she had felt throughout her life. What would she uncover about herself as she dared to push boundaries? This was the moment of transformation. Would they recognize her as an equal? Or would she remain confined to the role written by her origins? The stakes were mounting, and as her next words hovered in the balance, she leaned into the uncertainty of what lay ahead. Mia's breath hitched as the silence draped over the boardroom like a heavy shroud. Was this the moment she had been preparing for, or an interlude to her downfall? Each face returned her gaze, expectant yet inscrutable, and she felt the weight of their scrutiny in her bones. For once, this space did not feel like an arena to conquer but an intimate stage where her truth could not only be spoken but felt. As she opened her mouth to speak again, her mind raced. These men and women, some of the most powerful in the industry, had constructed their lives on assumptions that she had lived in opposition to. Would they see her as a mere challenger to their established norms, or could she shift the narrative to one of collaboration? I understand your apprehension, she began, recognizing the tightness in the air. But think of the brands you admire. They didn't just rise through numbers alone, they thrived by authentically connecting with their audiences. Her voice gained momentum. This isn't just about addressing losses, it's about creating profound engagement that leads to lasting loyalty. The man in the suit, still simmering from her previous rebuttal, stiffened. And what would you know about our clients? We've cultivated this market for decades. Your perspective is limited, Mia interjected. The word broke through the tension like a window opening to fresh air. You've built your success on traditional metrics, while I offer insights from a realm that has been overlooked, one where real emotional connections drive engagement. Many of your clients are silently drifting. They feel unseen, just like I did growing up. That's where the opportunity lies. In her fervor, Mia noticed the room's dynamics shifting again. Some faces softened, and John's sympathetic nod began to feel contagious. Could she truly be tapping into something larger than herself? A flicker of determination ignited within her. What if, she pressed, instead of dismissing narratives as irrelevant, we listened and integrated them? We can reshape our strategies to appeal to a clientele that yearns for authenticity. This isn't just theory, it can be a game changer. At that moment, she spotted a glimmer of realization in the board members' faces. They were beginning to consider the implications of her words, weighing them against their fears and long-standing beliefs. That realization became her anchor. She had shifted the tide, however subtly. Let me show you, she continued. I can bring data that isn't just factual but also rich with the context of human experience. Empathy within analytics, not as a soft touch but as a means to operationalize our findings. Fear mingled with excitement, sending her heart racing. But the risk was clear, she was now laying bare her vulnerabilities and her ambitions on this corporate altar. Would they take the bait, or retaliate and tighten their grip on the status quo? The man in the suit scowled. I give you credit, Mia. But remember, it's hard to reinvent the wheel when we've all been conditioned to rely on tried-and-true methods. His challenge reverberated throughout her psyche. Was this truly a call to conform, or a chance to unravel a deeply rooted paradigm? She squared her shoulders. Perhaps it's time to consider that what has worked in the past may not serve us in the future. Our potential lies not just in reinforcing traditional methodologies but in daring to innovate radically together. Sudden applause broke out. John was the first to lead, the others uncertain but encouraged by the resonance of her argument. As she caught his eye, Mia felt something click into place within her. What had begun as a gamble had flourished into an awakening, igniting parts of her that had long been dormant. And yet, her mind cycled through doubts. Was this merely a temporary swell of interest? Could her ultimate fate hinge on the whims of this corporate arena? The tension of uncertainty thickened in her throat. Mia's heart raced, driven by adrenaline and the brightest glimmer of hope. She had touched something universal within them, but now she had to ensure it didn't fade into the background noise. As the applause subsided, she seized the moment. Let's discuss how we can create a pilot program. One that spearheads a new initiative and sets the standard for our industry. Would they rise to the challenge, or would this moment disappear into the annals of almosts and what-ifs, sealing her fate once again? The answer, she knew, lay just beyond the edge of discomfort. Mia stood in the wake of her own audacity, the boardroom feeling both tirelessly daunting and eerily exhilarating. The applause faded, leaving behind a silence buzzed with potential. John smiled, his approval evident, yet the skepticism from the man in the suit lingered like an unwelcome shadow. Every second tested her resolve. She wasn't simply defending an idea, she was unearthing her own strength. With a deep breath, she gathered her thoughts, slicking her hair back as if to clear her mind. Thank you for your immediate response. I want to make this clear, I'm not here to dismantle what has been built, but to enhance it. Her intent was earnest, the words winding around her determination. Enhance it with what exactly? The suit countered, arms folded tightly, exuding an air of careful scrutiny. Emotion. Sentimentality isn't exactly a currency in our world. Each challenge felt like an echo of her past. The doubt lodged itself deep within, but she sensed clarity forming through the fog of uncertainty. It's not about throwing out the past, Mia replied, steadier now. It's about respecting history while boldly stepping into the future. I can show you metrics that highlight not just engagement, but real, driven loyalty. They won't remain faceless consumers, they will become brand advocates. An uneasy energy ebbed and flowed in the room. Some of her colleagues were leaning in, others were drawn into their own apprehensions. This was more than a corporate proposal, it was her battle against conformity. Yet even as fear clawed at her heart, she felt emboldened. Their skepticism would be her compass, pushing her to refine her message. Let us implement a pilot program, but let us keep it simple to start. Focus groups. These are messy, they're unpredictable, but they yield extraordinary insights. She asserted, carefully weighing her words. To connect, we must first understand. We can provide tailored experiences that address the very nuances your current strategies might overlook. Gradually, nods began to spread through the group. Mia felt the tension slightly alleviating as a glimmer of hope sparked amongst them. One by one, they were slowly being pulled into her vision, not entirely convinced, perhaps, but intrigued by the prospect. Are you willing to lead this project? John's question broke through the swirling thoughts in her mind, grounding her. Absolutely, she answered, the word resonating in the air. The commitment felt like a chain link catching fire, the pieces of her aspirations binding her courage to the rising momentum in the room. As discussions shifted, focus moving toward logistics and potential outcomes, Mia found herself straddling a pivotal moment. Each decision intertwined with her own growth. She was not merely a participant, she was shaping the narrative, yet, beneath the surface satisfaction, anxiety bubbled. What if this newfound trust crumbled under scrutiny? She was playing with fire, slicing through traditional routes to pave a path of innovation. If she faltered, her reputation might once again be silhouetted against the specter of her origins. Was she prepared for the fallout when the executives reached deeper into their doubt? Once the session concluded, applause echoed once again, but with an undertone of curiosity rather than resounding approval. Satisfaction mingled with doubt, a volatile concoction that threatened to destabilize her progress at any moment. As she stepped out of the boardroom, her mind flooded with what-ifs that cascaded as she turned down the hallway. Would this initiative spark the change she envisioned or drive her back to the margins she had known? The weight of these questions anchored her as she stepped outside into the bright light of day. Just as she reached for her phone, a message notification interrupted her thoughts. It was from John. Congratulations, Mia. But I still have doubts. Let us meet tomorrow. Things might get tricky. As curiosity threatened to send her racing back, she asked herself if she was prepared to face the challenges lurking ahead, questioning if she had truly grasped the depths of her own potential. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was merely the beginning. What more was she ready to uncover, and at what cost? The next morning, Mia woke to a gray sky, the kind that seemed to press down on her shoulders. Despite the warmth of her bed, anxiety had seeped beneath the sheets, wrapping around her like an unwelcome embrace. Today was not just any day, it was a crossroads, a moment that could either propel her into the limelight or drag her back into the shadows of self-doubt. She dressed with purpose, choosing a tailored blazer that emphasized both professionalism and confidence. As she fastened the final button, she caught her reflection in the mirror and saw a woman determined to break through the barriers that had stitched together her history and her fears. Each thread of uncertainty was woven tightly around her, but she now recognized it for what it was, a design of her own making, one she could choose to unravel. In the office, the vibrant chatter seemed to ripple past her as she navigated through the sea of colleagues. Each face was a reminder of the skepticism that still loomed over her project. How could she convince them that connection and loyalty could outweigh profit margins? The board meeting with John felt like it was hanging over her head, a storm ready to break. When she finally stepped into the conference room, she found John already seated, his brows drawn together in contemplation. The air was thick with unspoken words, and Mia quickly assessed the room's atmosphere. It wasn't hostile, but it certainly wasn't welcoming either. Glad you could make it, John said, his eyes narrowing as they met hers. I've been reviewing the feasibility of your pilot program. Right, and? Mia leaned forward, refusing to let her heart race too loudly in her chest. Fear could spiral into something paralyzing. She wouldn't allow that today. That he sighed, placing a dossier on the table. You know, skepticism isn't just for show around here. The board wants results within a quarter, and the focus groups you're suggesting, they can go awry. Data can be misleading. I appreciate that, Mia replied, her voice steady despite the storm of doubts. But if we don't listen to the voices of our customers, we risk making decisions that are more about our assumptions than their actual needs. This is about building a brand narrative that resonates authentically. We're running a business, Mia. Not a charity. His words were clipped, but there was an edge in opening. Mia took a deep breath, realizing this was not just a test of her ideas, but of her mindset. Every successful brand today is built on emotion. Think Apple, Nike. They've created tribes of loyalists, not merely customers. We have to be ready to connect in ways we haven't before. There was a flicker in his expression, something that hinted at intrigue beneath the surface tension. Encouraged, she pressed further. What if we consider a hybrid approach? We could start with small focus groups while simultaneously implementing metrics to guide decision-making. We adapt as we learn. He leaned back, weighing her suggestion against the ideas brewing in his mind. You think you can manage both the feedback and the quantitative data at the same time? I think I can lead a team that can. There was a quiet confidence in her words. She felt herself shifting, tapping into a more assertive aspect of her personality. Okay. I'll take this to the others. You have one chance with this pilot program, Mia. Make it count. And I hope for your sake and mine you're right. With that, he stood, sending Mia's heart sinking slightly. She wasn't finished yet. The real challenge awaited. Once alone, she felt the pressure return, but this time it mingled with anticipation. Breaking through to John and planting that seed of possibility shifted the moment just enough. But the idea of failing loomed larger than ever. She texted John her gratitude for the meeting and began mapping out a strategy. Could she balance their hesitance with her fervor? What if the skeptics turned into obstacles? The way she formulated her plan started to reflect an urgency, an unearthing of a resilience she'd long kept at As the afternoon wore on. Mia wasn't only developing a project, she was venturing further into the concept of who she was becoming: a leader, an innovator. The journey became less about proving herself right to others and more about affirming her newfound voice. Yet lurking behind the excitement was a chilling thought. What if she opened the floodgates and risked drowning in a sea of expectations she wasn't ready to navigate? The moment was nearing, the stakes were higher than before. Would she rise to the challenge of not just convincing others of her potential, but in fully embracing it herself? As she gathered her notes, her mind raced with possibilities and fears alike. A message pinged on her phone, pulling her from her musings. Mia, can we discuss your ideas further? I have a thought that could change the direction entirely. With a mix of excitement and trepidation, she realized this didn't just promise further validation, it heralded a reckoning with the unexpected. But what awaited her in that conversation might challenge her more deeply than she had anticipated. Mia paced in her small office, her heart pounding from the sudden influx of adrenaline. The message from John felt like a double-edged sword. It could be the breakthrough she had been hoping for, or it could lead her deeper into uncertainty. Each step echoed in her mind, a reminder of the weight of the responsibility that this impending conversation carried. It was time to prepare. She quickly gathered her notes, listing her key ideas and potential questions. What could John's thought entail? Was it an adjustment to her initial proposal, or was he simply offering words of caution? Both possibilities loomed large, and she felt herself teetering on the precipice between eagerness and dread. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, Mia remembered the conversation with John earlier. She had pushed against skepticism, and now, the next discussion could either affirm her growing confidence or lay bare her vulnerabilities. This was a moment that required focus, no room for hesitation or self-doubt. As she organized her materials, she noticed her reflection in the glass window. Beyond the glass, the clouds mirrored her turbulent feelings, looming heavily over the city. But as she glanced back at her own figure, there was something different this time. A spark of determination lit within her eyes, a flicker of resilience playing against the backdrop of her earlier worries. She was no longer just the woman tailoring her arguments, she was transforming into a catalyst of change. Just as she felt ready to own her narrative, the knock on her door broke her concentration. "Come in," she called firmly, hoping to mask the tumult beneath her calm exterior. John entered, his presence filling the room with an electric tension. He seemed more animated than before, his hands gesturing subtly as he approached her desk. "I need to talk this through with you, Mia. I've been spinning ideas since our last discussion. Something clicked, and I believe we can adjust the pilot to maximize impact." Encouragement flooded her. "Really? That's great." The sincerity of her eagerness surprised her own ears. "What are you thinking?" He hesitated just long enough for her to catch a fleeting flash of anxiety cross his features. "We've been discussing how metrics can support our decisions, but what if we lean more heavily on qualitative data too? We could lead with the emotional narrative you mentioned and build our numbers from there." Her heart raced. "You mean integrating customer stories and experiences right into our metrics?" "Exactly. If we can capture genuine testimonials, we merge both sides beautifully. It doesn't have to be either/or. It's about harmony." Mia's mind whirled, processing the possibilities. This approach aligned perfectly with her vision, a brand built on connection. It opened doors for authenticity while not straying from the data that drove business decisions. "John, we could create a platform maybe where customers share their experiences, and that not only enhances our strategy but also builds a community around our brand." He nodded, enthusiasm growing. "And that will set us apart from competitors who churn out products without understanding their audience. We need that human element." However, amidst the exhilaration, a whisper of doubt echoed in her head. Was she capable of leading such a project? The sheer scale of responsibility felt overwhelming, but she took a risk, pushing through the turbulence of her thoughts. "If we're truly committing to this approach, I'll take the lead. I'll rally a team, pilot the focus groups, and craft the narrative." John's smile returned, lighting up his features. "You've got this, Mia. I believe in you." Yet as those words faded, a chilling afterthought crept into her mind. Belief was one thing, but results would be the ultimate test. Their conversation flowed effortlessly as weighty ideas exchanged hands. Mia felt a newfound sense of purpose solidifying within her. This was more than just a job, it was a glimpse into her potential, a manifestation of what she could create when she embraced her voice fully. As they wrapped up, John leaned in with a serious expression. "But remember, with this direction comes responsibility. You'll have to stand strong against any pushback you might face. Not everyone will understand this venture." The words hung heavy in the air, awakening her apprehensions. Was she truly ready to be the face of a revolutionary approach? Would she buckle under scrutiny? As she escorted John out, determination surged through her. This was her chance to step into the limelight. But the question loomed, was she prepared to withstand the resulting waves of challenge and doubt? With a mix of anticipation and anxiety swelling within, she sat alone in her office, contemplating the monumental leap she was about to make. The stakes were high, but she found herself at the intersection of possibility and fear, where only one path could lead to transformation. The sound of another message jolted her from her thoughts. It was a familiar name, Lucy, her best friend. "I need to talk. It's urgent." Mia's stomach nodded. What could be so urgent? And how would it affect her critical moment ahead? Mia glanced at her phone, the familiar notification lighting up the screen like an unwelcome siren. Lucy's urgency tugged at her mind, but an instinctual hesitation held her back. What could possibly be so pressing that it interrupted this pivotal moment in her life? The looming project with John felt as if it were about to define her career, and yet, here was her best friend demanding attention. As thoughts raced, Mia grappled with an unsettling mix of anxiety and impatience. Answers had to be sought. She took a deep breath and replied, "What is going on?" The seconds felt like hours as she awaited Lucy's response. It came swiftly. "Can we meet? I need your advice on something huge. It's about my job." A knot tightened in her stomach. Was this an emotional plea, a personal crisis, or something deeper? Lucy had always respected Mia's professional journey, but now, her friend needed her, and Mia couldn't ignore that. With a resigned sigh, she shot back, "Let us talk. I'll be at our usual spot in 30. Setting her phone down, Mia closed her eyes to gather her thoughts. She envisioned the meeting with John again, the twinkle of possibility he had sparked within her. But shadows of doubt flickered. Was she prepared to stand firm against skepticism? What if Lucy's issues drew her away from the focus she desperately needed? Arriving at the cafe, the familiar scent of roasted coffee beans momentarily comforted her. It was a life legacy brewed over countless conversations between the two friends, a sanctuary from the chaos outside. Lucy looked agitated, her fingers fidgeting with the strap of her bag. "Thanks for coming," she said, voice trembling slightly. "What's wrong?" "It's about my job," she began, taking a long, deep breath. "My boss is restructuring, and there's a possibility I might be laid off. I don't know what to do." Mia's heart sank. Lucy's struggles were an echo of her own fears, vulnerabilities skittering across the landscape of career upheavals. "I'm really sorry, Lucy. That sounds tough. Have you talked to him?" "Not yet. I'm scared of what might happen. I'm worried I'll end up having to start over, and at my age." Her voice trailed off, laden with unspoken worries. Mia felt a sharp pang of empathy. She wanted to comfort her friend, to provide the advice that might lead Lucy through this storm, but her own warrior spirit felt conflicted. Did she even have the right to offer guidance when she was grappling with her own uncertainties? "Lucy, you're talented and capable. If this job doesn't work out, I know you'll land somewhere that recognizes your worth. You've built incredible skills over the years. But what if I can't? What if this is the end of everything?" Mia realized that this frustration tapped into her own fears. The project with John could either elevate her career or act as the catalyst that dismantled any credibility she had built. You can't let what-ifs dictate your future, Lucy. Believe in your value until you find a place that sees it too. Just like me, I'm about to take a leap, and I can't let my fears win. The slight frown on Lucy's face began to soften. "You're right. You're really stepping up, aren't you?" "Yes, but it's terrifying." They shared an unspoken understanding in that moment, a solidarity amidst the chaos of career uncertainties. Yet, something nagged at Mia deeper. If she couldn't help Lucy weather this storm, how could she navigate her own? As they parted ways, Mia felt a renewed sense of purpose. Except now, new layers of self-doubt emerged. With Lucy's struggle mirroring her own potential battles, Mia had to prepare herself for the challenges ahead, not just in the office with John, but in public perception, scrutiny, and risks. Returning to her office, Mia sat before her laptop, the weight of expectation heavy on her shoulders. How could she transform fear into strength? A new resolve ignited, a commitment to not let doubt dictate her journey. As she opened her project documents, an email notification appeared on her screen, the subject line chilling her spine: "Your proposal requires revision." Mia's stomach twisted in apprehension as thoughts of self-doubt bubbled up once more. What new obstacles lay ahead? She had no choice but to confront them, channeling determination while bracing herself for the next round of challenges. Mia stared at the email, the words blurring as a whirlwind of doubt threatened to pull her under. This was her chance, the moment she had been preparing for, yet here she was, facing another hurdle. The need for revision signified scrutiny, the kind that could either uphold or undermine her resolve. Taking a moment, she inhaled deeply, allowing herself to push back against the rising tide of anxiety. Scrolling through the feedback, Mia felt the weight of each comment pressing down on her. Every critical note felt like a personal attack, igniting the familiar spark of self-doubt that she had tried to extinguish. What if her ideas weren't as stellar as she believed? What if she wasn't cut out for this role? But deep down, she knew that every successful project encountered roadblocks. It was how one dealt with them that mattered most. Determined not to crumble, she dissected the feedback methodically. It required a proactive mindset. Instead of overwhelming despair, Mia began to think strategically. What can I change? She typed the notes into a separate document, breaking down the suggestions into manageable tasks. An hour later, Mia closed the laptop, a strange sense of clarity washing over her. Each critique was a stepping stone, nudging her closer to the vision she had initially crafted. Yes, she felt the weight of expectation, but she could turn this into an opportunity for growth. Armed with renewed clarity, she mapped out a plan of action. She would take each suggestion seriously and work through them, molding the proposal into something that exceeded expectations. The following days became a blur of focus and commitment. Early mornings blending into late nights, Mia poured her energy into refining her project. Simultaneously, she kept in touch with Lucy, offering reassurances and advice as her friend navigated the uncertainty of her own career crisis. The low ebb of Lucy's faith became a counterbalance to Mia's rising determination, a reminder that they were both seeking validation in different arenas. About a week later, Mia gathered the revised document for what felt like the final time. Fingers trembling slightly, she pressed send and leaned back, allowing a wave of fatigue and elation to wash over her. She had taken control of her narrative rather than letting self-doubt dictate her story, yet, beneath the sense of accomplishment lurked a new fear. What if this was still not enough? Questions gnawed at Mia as she subconsciously replayed every interaction with John in her mind. Had she conveyed her ideas effectively? Did he see her potential, or was her struggle an undertow, dragging her back to where she began? The next day blurred into an intense haze at work. Mia could barely concentrate through the chatter of colleagues laughing and commiserating. The proposal had gone through but hadn't yet elicited feedback from John. The silence was now deafening. Each chime of her team's chat felt like a potential life-altering message. Just when Mia managed to steer her focus away from anticipation, she was pulled into a meeting. John strode in, exuding an energy that commanded attention. He looked poised to deliver news, yet his expression mixed excitement with seriousness. As he began speaking, Mia's pulse quickened, caught in the undercurrent of his words. "You've all been fantastic, but I need to address something important about future projects." Mia barely registered the rumbles of her colleagues' responses, her thoughts spiraling into a chaotic maze of probability. What if this meeting was about her proposal? What if they wanted to replace it entirely? The atmosphere thickened. Mia could sense the tension manifesting through the pulsating silence that enveloped the room. Her heart raced as her mind raced through countless possibilities. And just as John paused, locking eyes with Mia, the weight of anticipation hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Would he endorse her work, or would she find herself on the brink of another unexpected setback? The moment had arrived, the threshold to either personal triumph or professional oblivion. As the silence stretched, Mia's world narrowed to the intensity of that single moment. John's gaze anchored her, a beacon of scrutiny that sliced through her turbulent thoughts. She was keenly aware of the other voices in the room, yet they faded into a dull hum compared to the pounding of her heart. The stakes felt impossibly high. The path ahead seemed paved with both opportunity and the potential for failure. John's voice broke through the fog, steady and clear. "I have to commend everyone for their hard work, but I also wish to emphasize that innovation requires risk-taking." Mia leaned in, her attention sharpening. The concept of risk had always intimidated her, but it also ignited curiosity. What did that mean for her? Did John want bold ideas, or was he implying the need for adjustments in approach? He continued, analyzing past successes and setbacks. Mia felt a knot of anticipation swell in her stomach. This was it, the synthesis of her hard-won revisions and the chance to elevate her work. But with opportunity came fear of vulnerability, fear of rejection. As if reading her thoughts, John turned his eyes back to Mia, and she could feel the energy shift. "Mia, your recent submission stood out, and I want to discuss it further. It's clear you've put significant thought into addressing our feedback." The collective tension in the room cracked like a fragile veneer. Encouraged, Mia straightened her posture, drawing strength from his words. She hadn't anticipated acknowledgement, let alone a focus solely on her work. All her nights of revisions and the emotional grind seemed to culminate in this moment, yet, with acknowledgement came the realization that she would need to defend her ideas. John leaned against the conference table, poised to challenge her on specifics. What do you see as the key to transforming these revisions into a successful project? Mia swallowed, her throat suddenly dry. This was more than just a question, it was a crucible. She could feel her response bubbling beneath the surface, demanding to be articulated with clarity and passion. She forced a deep breath to steady herself. First, I believe we should emphasize user engagement. The feedback helped me realize that the target audience is our priority. By integrating their perspectives, we can create solutions that are not just innovative but impactful. The words flowed, each one building on the precepts laid out in her revised proposal. The room shifted subtly, sensing her confidence. She felt the surge of conviction wash over her, bolstered by the knowledge that she was making her case. John's expression softened, and for a fleeting moment, doubt retreated. A few colleagues chimed in, inspired by Mia's enthusiasm, building on her ideas and sparking a dynamic dialogue. But as discussions accumulated, so did the intensity of self-examination. Could she truly sustain this momentum? Would it lead to enduring recognition or a fleeting flash in the pan? Several exchanges later, John wrapped up the meeting but not without leaving her with a tantalizing final note. I want you to lead the next phase of this project, Mia. Let us refine it further. With those words hung in the air, Mia felt the gravitational shift in her sphere of influence. Leadership was a new terrain, challenging and exhilarating, yet laden with responsibilities. This was uncharted territory for her, and hesitation crept back in. She had known the grind of execution, could she translate that into guiding others? As she left the meeting room, her mind raced, ignited by thoughts of strategy while simultaneously battling the onslaught of insecurities. Questions echoed within her, was she truly ready? How could she transform from an executor of ideas to a leader shaping them? The distinction felt monumental, but in that struggle resided the essence of growth. Taking one last look around at her bustling colleagues, an unexpected flicker of excitement sparked within her, a possibility to mold a vision rather than simply adhere to one. With a renewed sense of urgency propelling her forward, Mia understood the next steps were not just about refining her proposal but developing into the leader she had never recognized within herself. What would it take to embrace this new role fully? The weight of that certainty lingered, urging her not to only observe the opportunity before her but to seize it. The challenge of leadership lay ahead, and she was fueled by both fear and ambition. Would Mia discover the traits she'd need, or would unknown pressures prove too formidable? Mia stood before the boardroom once more, but this time the energy enveloping her was different. Gone were the thoughts of inadequacy that once cluttered her mind. Instead, confidence coursed through her veins, a testament to the journey she had undertaken. With the pilot program underway, the focus groups she envisioned had not only materialized, they were thriving, brimming with insights drawn from lives beyond spreadsheets and profit margins. Thank you all for your ongoing commitment to this initiative, she began, her voice steady and assertive as she looked around the room, meeting the curious eyes of her colleagues. The atmosphere buzzed not with skepticism, but with a shared expectation of growth. Today, I'm excited to discuss how the qualitative data we've gathered can drive innovation and connect us more deeply to our audience. She could feel the weight of their previous doubts as a distant memory. The narrative had shifted. What started as her lone voice in the wilderness had transformed into a collaborative movement. The CEOs who once viewed her as the Maid's daughter now respected her as a leader, an innovator shaping the future of their company. As she moved through the presentation, Mia shared testimonials from focus group participants, stories infused with emotion, illuminating the necessity of empathy in their corporate strategies. Key performance indicators had altered significantly, revealing not only increased customer engagement but also an emerging brand loyalty previously untouched by traditional methodologies. She could see them nodding, slowly coming around to the idea she had fought so fiercely to articulate. when she concluded, applause erupted as if the walls themselves were responding to the infectious energy in the room. John rose from his seat, the pride in his gaze undeniable. "Mia, this is outstanding work. The approach you've taken represents a paradigm shift for us. I not only want you to lead this in the future, but I also see potential for you to mentor others within the team." She felt a rush of emotions: validation, pride, and an exhilarating euphoria enveloped her. There it was, the moment of recognition she had yearned for, the acknowledgement that her voice held weight. She was no longer just the maid's daughter, she was Mia, a beacon of hope and innovation within this corporate landscape. Reflecting on her journey, she realized that it had not just been about breaking through external barriers but also conquering the internal ones. The once daunting question of, "Am I enough?" had been replaced with a resounding affirmation of her capabilities and worth. She had ventured through fear and emerged not only as a competent professional but also as an advocate for the very essence of humanity in business. Mia stepped back from the podium, a newfound resolve locking in place. Her path had intertwined with countless stories: her mother's struggles, her own battles, and the narratives of those people she represented. This was just the beginning, she understood. The possibility of mentoring others lit a fire she never knew existed. As she left the boardroom, an array of challenges lay ahead, yes. But now, they felt surmountable. With each step she took, Mia recognized the profound truth that she had developed the strength to turn challenges into stepping stones, fear into passions, and a singular voice into a multitude. This was her victory, her triumph, and her transformation. The finality of her journey embraced the very essence of what had always fueled her ambition: that if you want to witness more incredible journeys of personal transformation, you need to subscribe now. Make your mark by leaving a like to fuel the algorithm that supports these empowering tales. Comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories about the incredible ending. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion.